I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't know where all of this AI stuff goes in the next 5 or 10 years. I am very much on the depends on how you're looking at it, either the doomer or the or like we'll just go down the doomer path of all work is going to be done by AI one day. Like, you could say that's a good thing, you could say that's a bad thing. I'm pretty much of the camp that in probably I'd be surprised if it's not in my lifetime. Like, most of the work being done by AI, especially anything involving computers. Like, there's definitely going to be a lot more issue with like manual labor work. Like, it's going to be much harder to fully automate bricklaying or fully automate plumbing or for maybe you could definitely integrate a lot of AI tooling into like electrician work, but when something is purely physical, it's going to take a lot longer for that to be automated. But when we're talking about like office jobs, like, you're doing a research position, you're doing some low-level web dev, you're doing some data entry, you're doing some data analysis. A lot of this stuff in like probably no more than like 20 years, I can't imagine most of it still existing or existing like at the rate it exists today. I feel like probably a long time into the future, you're going to need you may not need it, but people are going to want a sort of human sanity check because a lot of these AI systems we have are very good at saying things that are wrong confidently. Like ChatGPT, for example, you can get it to say pretty much anything, even if that is completely wrong, and it will be incredibly confident about it. But that's not useful in every situation. If you just want it to say things, fine. But if you want it to be right on things, then you need some other system to follow up on that system. And you may have an AI system that does that, but I think most people are going to be more comfortable having some sort of human there just to like check over what's going on. Like I've had this discussion with someone probably a couple of years back about like the whole automated trucking. I think the idea of like fully autonomous cars, fully autonomous trucks is probably longer away than the advocates want them to be. I know there are definitely like a lot of stuff in the works. When does Tesla think they'll have their fully autonomous trucks? Uh, Fully autonomous trucks, Tesla. Uh, okay, I put in truck, but the people in the US call a ute a truck. Fully autonomous semi. Ba ba ba. I know that they're definitely trying to get the electric trucks onto the road, or are they on the road already? I'm not seeing any like recent discussions of them, so I'm guessing they aren't on the road yet. Yeah, initially they did say they wanted to do full self-driving, but oh, here we go. So Tesla's first semi-trucks will be delivered to Pepsi in December of 2022. I don't know if they are on the road just yet, but they might have them in their fleet, assuming that Tesla isn't very behind on things, which is very Tesla to be. Okay, there are prototypes on the road. Yeah, there. Okay, so they have made trips with them. but they are not. Yeah, they're not obviously full self-driving yet, because Tesla doesn't have full self-driving. As much as there is, oh my god, so many fucking people. Have you guys seen the videos of people who are asleep at the wheel of their Tesla? Because Tesla, in their infinite wisdom, is allowed to market products as autopilot and full self-driving. I don't know why they're allowed to use these terms when the general public obviously has a perception of what these terms actually mean. I'm fully fine with them trying to do that. If they get to the point where you can have like autopilot and full self-driving, go right ahead and call it that. But until we get to the point where you can sleep at the wheel, can we just please not call it that? Just please. Please, please, please. The problem with full self-driving isn't the car itself. Like, I'm sure that in a test track, you can, have it drive around perfectly fine. The issue is, in the real world, there is other cars, there is signs, there are people, there are animals that don't follow rules whatsoever. Like, you need to build a system that can account for basically infinite variables. And it seems like they're definitely a lot better than they used to be. But there's still a long way to the point where people are I was going to say people are going to really trust them, but then I remember the people that fall asleep at the wheels. Regular people who are not insane, who sleep at the wheel of their car, for those people to trust it. I was having this discussion with my housemate a couple of weeks back about if one day it'll get to the point where you can be in a full self-driving, like, we get to the point where full self-driving is like actually full self-driving. You don't have to touch the wheel unless something goes wrong, because something's always gonna have a chance to go wrong. And he was saying, will we get to a point where you just don't need a driver's license to use one of these cars? He argued, yes, that'll happen. I don't see a world where, if there is a steering wheel, you'll be allowed to drive a full self-driving car, like an actual full self-driving car, without a license. Because even though let's say 99.9% of the time, it's perfectly fine. It does everything that it needs to do. If there is a situation where the user needs to take control, that user needs to know how to drive to be in a to actually be able to take that situation from being dangerous into something safer. They need to be able to take control as soon as possible, get off the road in a safe manner, or slow down, or put hazards on, or whatever is the best approach in the specific situation, and then, deal with it like that. If there is the ability for the user to take control, I don't see a world where... I know people... He's not the first person who's talked about this. I know there is definitely people who think that one day, we're going to have fully autonomous taxis. They're going to have no driver. You can just let your car go out into the world and make you money. Not only is that really stupid because people are going to vandalize your car, and people are going to try to steal it, and if something goes wrong, then a person in the back seat can't reasonably get into the front seat to take over, or maybe have a steering wheel in the back seat. But if you have a steering wheel in the back seat, now you can drive from the back seat, which is also probably not safe either. I'm curious to see where the self-driving thing goes. I don't want to say it's impossible. I think it's way, way further out than we think. But you can't ever really say something is impossible in the world of tech. Like, there's the, what was the Bill Gates quote about RAM? Bill Gates never need... you never need... Oh, what was it? In 1981, when the IBM PC was introduced, Bill Gates supposedly said the 640 kilobytes of memory ought to be enough for anybody. I don't know if that's actually a real quote, but it is certainly a quote that floats around. Like, there's articles from the early days of the internet where people were saying that nobody would really need the internet in their home. There are like discussions from the early days of computers where people were saying that people would, like, actual researchers were saying that people would never need a computer in their home. And we know how that turned out. So I don't want to say that it's impossible that we actually see full self-driving. That's one where I'd be surprised if we see that in our lifetime. There's definitely going to be a lot of tests. Like, there's going to be a lot of tests of maybe not, like, road trains, maybe not full semis, but, like, small load trucks doing a, like, fully autonomous. Oh, the other problem with a fully autonomous truck, though, is you can't have a fully autonomous truck just go out into the middle of nowhere by itself. Because what happens if that truck breaks down? What if it gets bogged? What if it is in a crash because, you know, someone's car hits them? What if an animal comes out in the middle of the road and takes the truck out or something? You need someone in the truck to be able to assess situations like that. Because, like, let's say you're going through somewhere like the middle of Australia. You go through the hay plains. The hay plains. I'll show you hay plains. So, the hay plains are well renowned as the flattest place in the southern hemisphere. This is the hay plains. I can show you any picture of the hay plains, and it will look exactly the same. This is the hay plains. It is a straight road for... I actually don't know how many kilometers. Let me find out. How long is the hay plains? How long is the hay plains? It's 1,500 kilometers. But it only takes about 16 hours to get through because it's 1,500 kilometers of just fucking straight road. It's not really straight. It's like, it curves a bit. But it's nothing. So if you are, like, you have a fully autonomous truck, and you break down right here, and let's say you send that truck out with absolutely no people on it. The nearest town is Mildura. This is probably like a 3 or 4 hour drive just to get there. Or they could probably, like, yeah, I think Mildura is the closest major town. There's probably, like, some little towns around here. But you need someone in the truck to be able to assess that. 'Cause you can't just leave, like, let's say you're, I don't know, it's a food truck, for example. You can't just leave that in the middle of the desert for, like, 5 hours by itself without any idea the truck's broken down. Especially because you might have a reporting system that also breaks down because, I don't know, there's like a fire in the truck or something. So, even if we get to the point where we have fully autonomous trucks, at least for those big trips, you're not going to have unmanned trucks. I think that's the big distinction. I think the idea of a fully autonomous vehicle can probably happen in our lifetime. Maybe, possibly. But I don't see unmanned vehicles happening at any reasonable point. Let alone just the fact that no sane regulator would allow there to not be a, Like, not be a backup, not be a fallback system in the case that something goes wrong. Because what happens if something goes wrong on a highway and there's no fallback system? Do you just die? Like, who's at fault if there's a crash? Because clearly the driver isn't at fault because they couldn't drive. So is it the company? Is it the government for having shitty roads? Is it the person who hit you? If they hit you, did they hit you, or did your vehicle malfunction and you hit them? It would be a mess. It would just be a giant mess, and I want to be old enough where I don't have to think about it.